I would love to invite Bev up here from Waratah eConveyancing. Now, Bev is our silver sponsor for the day, so give her a big warm welcome. Let's go, Bev.
Hi, I am Bev Gunn of Waratah eConveyancing. I'd like to explain a little about conveyancing in 2022. Conveyancing has been extremely rewarding and busy for all conveyancers, as people have realised they can now work from home and even ask themselves, is this the right home for me at this time, at my current stage of life? People have been upsizing and downsizing, finding homes with offices, moving to and from mountains, the coast and regional New South Wales. While purchasing a new home can be a highly emotive time, as at times it's a mix of excitement and anxiety, I work hard for my clients to minimise that anxiety aspect. Using electronic platforms provides the opportunity to work remotely. In other words, I have capability to act in an online environment with my clients and when representing them. A lot of people prefer this as everyone is so busy these days or don't really want to meet up because of COVID. Other people like to meet you, and I welcome any opportunity to meet such clients either at their home or in my home office. These days, an increasing proportion of my work relates to not only transferring the title, but to an application of government regulations. For example, identification is one of our legislative requirements. It is made easy when clients have passports and driver licences that can be copied onto a secure platform, but how do you prove the identity of a 97-year-old woman who doesn't drive and no longer has a passport? These are some of the things we as conveyancers are responsible for finding a solution to, at times within a critical time frame. I'm finding that now people with expired passports are not renewing them as often. Travel is limited, and we can only have the passports as expired for a period of 2 years, so we can't use this to identify them. Another legislative requirement is that we're responsible to the Australian Taxation Office for proving our clients are not foreign residents. Yep, that's correct. This may sound simple enough, but when you have an elderly couple who have never left Australia and arrived in the mid-1900s and don't have a valid passport, expired passport or visa, or for years have not submitted a tax return, potentially this can be a problem. Anxiety and stress levels increase when the implication is unless they can establish Australian residency, they may be liable to the ATO to pay 12.5% foreign tax duty. By the way, the government are very strict on enforcing this issue, and at times the ATO requirements result in extra efforts from the conveyancer to ensure this does not apply. Furthermore, we also check first homeowners' documents, and we are actually the people who assess eligibility for the first homeowner's stamp duty exemption or reduction from stamp duty from Revenue New South Wales. The exemption assistance varies depending on the price of the property and other factors. If we are wrong when audited, the client can be charged stamp duty plus interest until the date the Stamp Office found the error. A huge responsibility, and can in turn be a claim on a conveyancer's professional indemnity insurance. Even so, I love my job, and I am continually rewarded by my clients' joy at the settlements or transfers of land. It is also rewarding when they ask if I can act for them again and again, or for a family friend or member, to purchase or sell another property. That's very rewarding. At this time, I would like to thank Fiona Donnelly for her support with my business. She's been wonderful in the last few years. The reason I decided to sponsor the Women with Altitude conference is that I've received a lot of support from the women at Women with Altitude, supporting both myself and my business and making us grow. And this is one way that I thought I could give back. If anyone has any questions or want to know more about the changing role of today's conveyancer, please don't hesitate to come and say hello. Thank you for your time.
That was excellent. Thank you so much, Bev. Thank you. That was stunning. I know you're a little bit nervous. You did really well. I think everyone's nervous. Even I get nervous coming up on stage, but I've had a bit of a Red Bull, so I'm probably going a little bit too fast, a little bit too much chaotic energy, and a crash at 12. But anyway, so just a bit more on the rest of today, how it's going to go. We have 2 speakers, and then we're going to break out into streams again, stream B and stream A, which is mentioned who's doing what on the programs on the tables. We're going to have a morning tea break around 10:30, back into the separate rooms, and then we're back in here at 12, and then we're going to wrap up at around 12:31 sort of time. Anyway, just a reminder of our other sponsors today. So we have our major partner, the City of Parramatta, our gold sponsor, Judge Accountants, silver sponsor, that was Bev, who you just heard from then, and our bronze sponsors, the Black Dog Institute and Western Sydney Business Centre. Now, without further ado, I would love to welcome Susan Farquhar from Cala Property, and she's going to talk about accelerating your finances. Jumping up.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Accelerate. Gosh, aren't we great as women at doing that? Always running, accelerating, going faster, 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 racing to finish that assignment, running to work, that deadline, clock ticking, racing to have kids, running after kids, and for too many women, running out of time. Why do I say this? Well, today I'm going to speak about accelerating your financial independence. Why is that? Why is financial independence important? Have you thought about financially secure you are or will be, especially in retirement? And especially if you're a woman. If you've just glossed over that part, I'd like you to consider this. 84% of Australians will retire on average on $21,000 per year. That is per couple and with government assistance. 12 years. We have to, oh, this thing's not working very well. Sorry. Australian women have to work for 12 years longer to have the same amount of money in their superannuation as their average male counterpart. 12 years. So not only do we need to bear children, raise them, look after ageing parents and siblings, but we have to keep working until we can afford to retire. And even then, for many, many women, that will mean a very small life, a reduced existence, because the structures set up in Australia that favour men as well as women who don't have kids. The Broderick report highlights that currently the average superannuation payout for women is a third of the payout for men. Just $37,000 compared with $110,000. That's not per year, that is total payout. And we earn still 16% less than men. Do I have your attention now? I hope so, because this is really important. And it's a very, very serious issue for Australian women, because the fastest growing cohort of homelessness in this country is 55-year-old women and older. And when I first read that statistic, I was just so appalled, because these women are our mothers, our sisters, our aunties, our nurses, our teachers, our cleaners, the ladies who served us at the tuck shop. You know, the people that cleaned up after us, the vet nurses, the pharmacy assistants, the dental assistants, don't have much money, you know, like retiring on so much less than men, and often have worked part-time, and that's a massive contributing factor. So, let's get real. Let's have a look at your why, at your finances, and see how I can help you to accelerate your financial independence. Because I'm sure you'll now agree, if you didn't before, that it's pretty bloody important. So what is your why? Now, we've heard that quite a lot this conference, which has been amazing. But if you haven't already thought about this, and you might have just heard about it in passing, actually read the book by Simon Sinek, It Starts With Why. You can also watch the YouTube video. It was the most watched YouTube video, I don't know up until when, it may still be the most watched YouTube video. But read the book, especially if you're a business owner, because it will make a huge amount of difference to your business. So for me, it's an absolute game changer. My name is Susan Farquhar, and I founded Calla Property as a company 8 years ago. Calla Property was founded on a whole lot of mistakes that I made so that hopefully you don't have to. And they're mistakes that I made personally when I was young. I managed to invest in the wrong properties, at the wrong times, and in the wrong locations by the time I was 26. Three things happened to me in quick succession. And the number 3 is important because I've noticed that many people can easily recover from one setback and maybe even from 2, but you need a lot of resilience and resources and support to recover from 3 shocks, especially if you haven't had time to recover from the first 1 or 2. So my 3, my relationship with the love of my 20s broke down, my mum died by suicide, and I became a single mother when my baby was just 3 days old. The one thing, the only thing I was never going to be, having been raised by one. Looking back, I wonder if that was the very definition of rock bottom. So I had no choice but to sell my properties, and at that time it was clear that I had no idea what I was doing when it came to choosing an investment property. I didn't understand why some properties performed well and others didn't. I was brought up believing that you would always make money out of property by people who also had no idea what they were doing. I managed to invest in the wrong property at the wrong time, in the wrong place, not once, but 6 times over. But I was young and I had time on my side. And that is really important. And it is such a luxury. When I did get back on my feet, I knew that property was the right investment vehicle for me. It was the right asset class. It felt right to me. But I had enough to invest in property again, and I had lost enough to know that I needed to know more. I had a degree in research that taught me such practices, and it just hadn't occurred to me that I needed to know anything about property, so I didn't really research it. But I started to study. I began to research the markets, and at that time I came up with about 20 drivers of capital growth and rental stability. I started to formulate what cash flow on a property meant in real terms, both before and after tax. That was so important to me because the big mistake I made was assuming that you'll always make money out of property. And that's probably true most of the time, if you can afford to hold on to the property. If the property is close to cash flow neutral and doesn't adversely affect your lifestyle, you probably won't think about it too much. It will just sit there doing its thing and it will grow into a nice investment. The idea of understanding the macro drivers of capital growth as well as the micro drivers for rental stability and cash flow, born about 20 years ago, has now grown into a very complex, award-winning research methodology called Calla Property Insights. So fast forward 20 years, and I'm on a plane between LA and Mexico reading Simon's book, and I realised that my why wasn't building property portfolios for people, it was building their dreams. I specialise in building your dreams. That is my why. The reason why I do it is so that you can have the financial freedom to have choices my mum didn't have. It's very personal to me. The good news is that it's easier and more accessible than you might think. So many people believe that property investment is out of reach, but it's the best way that I know how to accelerate your financial independence. I've helped hundreds of clients and get started in property investment, and for all of them, I start with their why. So Jo was one of my first clients. She came to me when she was 41 years old, single, no children, and she said to me, "Suze, I don't think that a man is a solid financial plan. And I'm 41 and I don't have one. So I'm going for plan B." I said, all right. Now, Jo she earned $95,000, but she only had $50,000 in superannuation. She worked in a house that helped disabled people become independent, and that was her job in the health department. Actually, it's Ramsay Health now. So the strategy that I devised for Jo was to build a property portfolio that was cash flow positive and had good long-term growth. Her investment horizon was 20 years. So investment horizon means at what point do you want to cash out, right? So at 41, she's thinking she'll retire around 60. So 20 years is her investment horizon. And it depends on your why. Some people that have a different strategy altogether, so their investment horizon will change. So that was in 2015. And she bought this little 3-bedroom townhouse in Fitzgibbon Chase, which is in Brisbane, for $382,000. Now that's valued at $545,000, which is 42% growth in just that period of time. And we expect in 2035, by the time she retires, that property will be worth $1.22 million. That's a bit of a better retirement, isn't it, than the $50,000 that she came to me with. She actually had some more cash saved up, so we were able to pull some of that cash and a little bit of leverage from Fitzgibbon Chase to invest in a little 1-bedroom apartment on the ground floor in Cannon Hill, also a suburb of Brisbane, for $329,900. It's now valued at $370,000, which has had a 12% growth. And we expect that that one will be worth just over $1 million. So for Jo, who was really concerned about her retirement, who decided a man wasn't a solid financial plan, came to see the ladies instead, for these small deposits, she's going to have a retirement that is going to be fun, full of choices, independence, joy, all these things we work so hard for. Isn't that worth planning for and trying to accelerate if we haven't got this already? So for a total deposit of $71,000, her value of that in retirement will be $2.2 million. Pretty amazing, hey? Does that accelerate? Is that a better kind of accelerate than running everywhere all the bloody time? Stop for a second and get this part right so that you've got those choices in retirement. Chris came to see me just after a divorce, and she had a terrible divorce. She'd been married for over 20 years, and unbeknownst to her, she had been implicated in a whole lot of companies that had gone insolvent. So by the time they split up, she had $47,000 to her name, and a child in private school who had another 2 years of schooling. So we needed to get her into something quite quickly. She was nearly 50. She was running out of time, okay? So we got just a little apartment in Brunswick in Melbourne for $350,000. The deposit on that was $35,000. And part of the reason we went to Melbourne was not just because of the drivers of growth and rental stability in 2017, but there was also a government incentive to not charge investors stamp duty. So we got in just before June the 30 deadline. And Victoria has one of the most expensive stamp duty at about 5.5%. So normally that would have cost, a lot of money in stamp duty that she didn't have. So fast forward to now, that property. Have we got a clicker with a battery in it? It's slowing me down. I'm trying to accelerate. So fast forward to now, and it's valued at around $500,000, okay? So 42% growth, again, in a small period of time. This research that I do, thank you, we get this right, and we get this right every single time, okay? The research is extraordinary. It's award-winning, and I was actually given federal funding last year to work with the data scientists to turn it into a platform and an algorithm that will be more accessible for more people, because that is my why, is to build your dreams. Thank you. So when she retires, that property should be worth $838,000. Now, she didn't have anything in superannuation, nothing, when she came to see me. That already is more than what most people will have in retirement, and she didn't start till she was 47. So it is not too late. That's really important. It's not too late. We don't all have time on our side anymore to make all the mistakes. This one is one of my favourites though, Nat. Oh, sorry, this is just going up over that. Nat came to see me. She was actually referred to me by her accountant. She was earning $200,000 a year as a medical researcher, but only had $50,000 in her superannuation because she's English and she'd spent half of her life travelling. So, like most women, aren't thinking about superannuation when you're 20. And she said, not only do I need tax minimisation, I'm very worried about my retirement security. So Nat has bought into 3 properties now. The first one was in Geelong in 2017. Amazing growth, 49% growth, and it expected to be worth nearly $2 million in retirement. She was able to leverage that. She couldn't leverage it sooner. Normally, our clients invest in 4 properties in the first 5 years. And these are not wealthy people, right? These are not, your sort of blue suit kind of, private school people. These are really ordinary, everyday Australians. A lot of older people, a lot of really young people, which is exciting, and everything in between. But she wasn't able to leverage because her business was impacted a lot by COVID. So she didn't have the she couldn't get the borrowing capacity, and she was a bit worried about spending any money because we just didn't know where it was going to go, and she's self-employed. So this property she invested in last year. It still hasn't been built. So she signed the contracts in October, I think, but it's already had 10% growth. All right, it's already valued at $745,000, but it's expected to be worth nearly $3 million. And on the back of that, she's about to sign contracts for another property in Woodford. It's a beautiful property on 611 square metres of land, which is a nice block of land. And we're expecting that will grow really well as well. So with an initial investment of just $46,200, that was the only cash she put into this, and legals and stamp duty and stuff. But the only cash she put into that at the beginning will be worth over $7.5 million in retirement. Now, how does your retirement feel when you know that that's what you're going to retire on? Suddenly you can dream, and you can dream big, and you can have different whys. Your why can change because it's not so survivalist, It can be about charity, it can be about purpose. And I think everyone here has that. That's one of the things I've learned in the last couple of days is the passion in this room. The purpose of people is really inspiring. Lots of common threads, but slightly different approaches for everyone, So we've helped hundreds of clients. My youngest client was, is, Yasmina. She came to see me when she was 23 years old. She worked at Kmart on Broadway. She lived at home with mum, and she'd saved $40,000 even though she only earned $38,000, right? I got her into a little 1-bedroom townhouse on the Sunshine Coast worth $309,750, and I can't remember what that's meant to be worth in retirement, but it doesn't matter. The point is, for a 24-year-old now, to have that under her belt, she's got all the options in the world. She won't be in that position that I was if she's ever a single mother. She will be able to help her mother if she's sick. Lots of things that she's going to be able to do because she's got that little property there growing and growing and growing in equity. My oldest client is 84 years old, is a man, and he came to see me because his superannuation was only returning such a small percentage per annum. And he said, what kind of percentage can you get me with property? And so I found a property that was already built, pretty high cash flow. It's a townhouse in Kalenga, where a new university is getting built. And he now earns $450 a week more than what he was on his super. $450 a week is a lot of money when you're looking at food and bills, when you're getting a lot less than that. Now, we're also really resourceful as women, so use the resources available to you. So many resources in this room, right? For one, that's a good place to start. But ASIC has a great website, and it's particularly good for people in business. Their Money Smart site is fantastic. They've got a really good budget tracker. It's one of the best I've used, where you can put in the expenses and select whether it's weekly, fortnightly, monthly, whatever, and it'll work it all out at the end. Your bank, even just your app, often has money spending trackers, and knowledge is key, right? The more you know about where your money is going, and the less access you have to it, the greater chance you're going to save, right? So don't put all of your salary in one account that's linked to anything that has a credit card attached or a debit card. Just have money for bills that you can access. The rest should go into savings. Another great resource actually is The Barefoot Investor by Scott Pape. If you haven't read that, it is brilliant. I bought that for my daughter for her 18th birthday. I've been saving all of her pocket money since she was 3. And so I had a bank account with $10,000 in it, and Scott's book, because she's not going to learn anything from me, Scott's book, and we've been going through it chapter by chapter and setting up the structure so that she's not going to have these same issues when she's older. CommSec is also very good if you want to understand different asset classes and risk appetite. And, people are talking about, a lot of women have been left out of the financial conversation for so long. They didn't grow up with it. And often the parents didn't even know, but for fathers who did know, they often just taught their sons, not so much their girls. So if you're in a conversation and you hear things you don't understand, find it. Find out what it's about and how that could actually benefit you or not. Oh, sorry, the last one was just professionals. So, we've had the accountant, the financial planner, conveyancer. Find out more. Who else do you have in your networks whose knowledge you can leverage so that you can find out more? And we would love to help you. So Cala Property is essentially a free service. And for anyone here, we're happy to waive the one-off $500 fee that we normally charge, because we're really passionate about making sure that your futures are secure so that you can build your own dreams. So, is it time to accelerate your financial independence? And it's easier than you think. So, any questions?
We're just going to get the mic back in the room if you want to come jump up on that, please.
Hi, Susan. Nice to actually see you in person. I work with George Mavros, and he's talked about you a lot.
Oh, okay. You must be Fern.
I'm Fern, yes,
Gotcha.
and I'm your PA and Will. So, my question is this: the market has gone up like exponentially over the last couple of years, and I've got 2 mid-20-year-old children, and I've got myself, and we've all been talking about property. My son's been squirreling away money trying to chase a mortgage deposit. How does, if you hear all these words about how the market's going to drop, it's going to do this, going to do that, how does buying in now when it's so high, even if you can, benefit you if the market drops? Or because I understand, because it's a long-term sort of thing, you're not looking at in 5 years, you're looking at further out. But me, I'm 62 this year. If I buy something now, am I going to see it realised in any way to benefit me, or is that going to be for my kids when I've dropped off the perch?
Great question. Great question. And it's a question that is often asked by people who live in Sydney, because they're trying to save, the market moves, they're saving, the market keeps moving and moving, and they can never quite get that deposit together. The research that I've developed is Australia-wide, and we start with the macro drivers of capital growth, because that's how you make the most amount of money through property, right? Which is effectively compound interest. You've got your money that's sitting in something, and over time it's going to grow, right? That's how we derive those projections for the investment horizon value. And the macro drivers are the economy, employment, population, demographics, infrastructure, supply and demand from a money supply perspective, which has a lot to do with interest rates and grants, stamp duty concessions and so forth. They're the macro drivers of capital growth, but what's super important is understanding the micro drivers of rental stability. Who's going to rent there? What's the vacancy rate? Is it a desirable place to live? Is it highly walkable? Is it well serviced by schools and job opportunities? Okay, so if essentially your investor will be paying for the majority of your investment, and the tax department will be paying for quite a lot of it as well through the instrument of negative gearing. So most of the properties I deal with are cash flow positive. I don't chase cash flow positive properties. That's more a function of low interest rates than anything else, right? So for a while now, we have had historically low interest rates, and if your rental yield is, say, 4% and interest rates are 2%, then obviously you're probably going to be fairly cash flow positive. So that part is really important, and it's critical for getting you through the very first cycle of the property cycle. Because you're right, Fern, cycles go up, the markets go up, and they invariably go down. And it still blows my mind that people go, it's never going to end. Every single cycle in Sydney, we'll be fine. We can invest in this $7 million shed, dilapidated shed in Bondi. It'll never go down in value. It will. It will. I wouldn't recommend investing in that, by the way. But the other thing that's really important is that the research we do is Australia-wide, and we always see there are opportunities, and especially with jobs. And so essentially everything that I do is population drives demand, and new jobs drive population. It's really that simple. I wish it was that simple and I didn't have to do 4,000 points of research. They're the things that we're looking for, and there are lots and lots of opportunities, especially in regional areas and in corridors, like growth corridors of capital cities. So, the majority of my clients have about $700,000 to invest in their first property, and it's going to be cash flow neutral or positive. Even if interest rates go up, they're still going to be okay. High demand for tenants and vacancy. They're all new properties, so you get the full tax depreciation benefit, which means you probably get more money back in tax the following year. So it's a beautiful story. So the best thing really is to book in for a discovery presentation. We can take you through all of that. You can book in online. Andy's here who can take you through all of that as well. So. And then we can show you in more detail how this works. And then what we do after that is you get your borrowing capacity, and then we look at what is going to be the best property for your strategy. It's very specific to what you're trying to achieve with this property. So for Fern, you're 62. When do you need this to make money? What are you wanting it to do? Is it for more retirement funds? Is it to a legacy story for your children? Do you want to use it to... Do you want your children to be able to leverage the equity through a family pledge loan, which is essentially a guarantor loan, so that they can get into the market, right? Lots of different whys out there, and we make sure that we get the right property for that. And then you just decide, we demonstrate the cash flow before and after tax, and you work out what you think is going to be best for you. And we mostly do house and land. I generally only do apartments if it's for either a price point, a yield, or self-managed super fund investment. Self-managed super funds have specific criteria around the kind of properties that you're allowed to invest in, so we're across that as well. So that's another vehicle. It's not really a retirement strategy, it's a tax minimisation strategy, the SMSF. So.
My question was just around buying a unit compared to a house, and my daughter will be looking at buying her first property in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
So I thought with a unit, you're then paying your ongoing strata fees and everything else. So what at her age, she's 25, so is it still better to look at buying a house, or is it?
It depends on what her borrowing capacity is. It depends on where she wants to live. I predominantly deal with investors. I don't really deal with owner-occupiers. A few notable examples in the room. And the reason for young people why they will come to me for an investment property, even if they want to live in it, is that they know it's not their forever home. They know that at some point it still needs to stack up as a viable investment. So for your daughter, it just depends on where her work is, her uni, or where her kids go to school, what she's actually looking for. The reason why for investors I prefer house and land is they just have much better long-term capital growth, and short-term as well. Yeah. And also, you're right, the costs, especially with new property, we find that the strata costs that are expected for the first year or two are really low. Like you can look at these massive towers, and even if we do apartments, we just do tiny little boutique things, like 20, 30 apartments, not the monstrosities, because we don't want those escalating costs eating into your profits. But in the first year or two, you see these towers with swimming pools and waterfalls and yoga lawns and a billiards room and all this stuff. And I will look at the strata, and it's like $2,000 a year. And I'm like, nah, not for long, because all of that stuff breaks down. And then you've got the maintenance costs and all of the rest of it. So be very careful of those off-the-plan apartments, especially when there are a lot of apartments that are being sold in that one development, and especially if the completion date is a long way away. That's the most risky kind of property I think you can probably buy. Yes.
I was wondering, when you showed the example of Nat, and she had 2 investment properties that hadn't been built.
Yep.
So how does she pay them off while nobody's in them?
Okay, good question. So when you buy a house and land package, essentially that is, you buy the land first and then you start building the property, right? And in that period of time, you will be funding the build through typically 5 staged payments, and you have to pay interest only. Usually the bank doesn't even think about principal and interest in that situation. They'll just do interest only until the property is completed. And yeah, we have to cash flow that. We have to make sure that she's got enough cash to pay for the interest only component while that property is getting built. Now, the good news is that the properties that we deal with and the builders who we deal with are very good at this investment type of building, and they take between, say, 16 and 24 weeks typically, so 4 to 6 months maybe, where you're just paying interest only. And given interest only has been such a small amount of interest to pay, generally it's affordable. But a really important question and really important thing to understand. You don't want to get to the end and go, oh, I can't put the roof on, I'm out, so yeah. And one of the benefits of going with that, with house and land and having that, that whole package is that we can help influence the design. We know what works, we know what people value in terms of livability. We know what bank valuers prefer in terms of style, but we can also influence things like ceiling height. Now, nearly every house you go into will be 2.44 metres. We always insist on 2.7. Just makes it feel much nicer. Thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you so much. Massive round of applause. That was super insightful, and I really need to get my shit together. That's all I'll say. Anyway, so just quickly, so before I invite our next speaker up, if you were listening to me yesterday, I may have mentioned something about a leaderboard, and maybe there might be a little prize if you are the top leader. So pretty much if you've been actively using your app, you've been scanning, networking with people, there is a leaderboard, and we've had Tia from the Oil Hut, give us a wave, Tia, where there you go, donate a lovely prize, which we'll tell you a little bit more about later. So if you're on the leaderboard, we will let you know if you're a winner. So keep active in the app. And then I would love to invite Renee from Think Wrapped up, please. Online. I would like to invite Renee. Who's online? Hi, Renee.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Hello. Great to see you all. I'm joining you from the beautiful land of the Wurundjeri people in Melbourne. So it's so great to be joining you this morning.
Thank you so much, Renee. I'll hand it over to you.
Fabulous. I was really enjoying Susan's presentation, thank you. And it's a really timely thing that you're also asking about the why, because I just had a workshop with my team yesterday and we came up with this as our brand new mission statement for our business. We're currently going through B Corp certification. Has anyone else in the room done B Corp or attempted to do the B Corp certification? Anyone? Well, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically B Corp is about really embedding the governance, social and environmental principles into the way that we run our businesses. So for our business, even though we're about creating visual models, our why is that we strive for people and planet to thrive. And I think that kind of ties in nicely with what Susan was saying. So I just kind of wanted to throw that in while she was speaking. I was like, oh, I'm going to add that in just because I was really inspired by what she was saying. So thank you, Susan. I've taken lots of notes. So what I'm going to be sharing with you today is the power of visuals. We are all about visual models here at Think Wrapped, and so I'm going to be sharing with you how you can use the power of visual models in your own business to scale the way that you are running your service-based businesses. We've got a little scorecard to see how you're actually performing in those areas. I'm going to share with you our award-winning ThinkWrap system, give you some examples of visual models, and show you the benefits of doing that. And I've also got an offer for a free copy of my book, Get Visual, for everyone who's attending today as well. So let's get into it. How many people are already using visual models? So things like infographics, visual graphics in their business, in their pitch decks. Yep, we've got a couple of hands going up, a few people. All right. Who has never heard of using visual models for their business? Okay, good. We've got a few of those as well. Great. All right. So we all know that we are bombarded with information every single day, right? And the research shows that in 1986, we were receiving about 40 newspapers worth of information every single day. By 2007, that had grown to 174 newspapers every day. That is the year that I joined Facebook. Anyone else join Facebook around that time? But I think, yeah, unfortunately, we don't have updated research, but if I just think about my own personal experience from 2007 till now, I am consuming so much more information on a daily basis. Why is this relevant? Because if we are all consuming this much information, so are your clients, right? And if your clients are having that much information thrown at them every single day, how do you cut through the noise? How do they hear you? How do they remember you? How do they decide that they want to listen to what you have to say? And this is why I really love visual models. And I'm going to share with you why they are so powerful in helping you to cut through the noise. Anyone here read the book Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman? Anyone, a couple of people familiar with that book? Okay, quick synopsis of that. There are two systems that our brains use. System 1, which is really fast. System 2, which is slow. Now, the fast system 1, that's what happens when we're driving along in the car, we see a stop sign, and then automatically instant recognition, foot goes on the brake, quick and efficient, no effort required. We make snap judgments, right? I don't have to decide. There's no sort of, I don't have this conversation with myself as I'm driving like, oh, there's a stop sign. I might put my foot on the brake now. That doesn't happen, right? We know we're just going to go, boom, foot on the brake. That's what we do when we see a stop sign, right? That's system 1 in action, automatic. On the other flip side, we've got system 2, which is slow. Now, unless we have a maths genius in the room, if I say 27 times 36, we're going to need to choose to work that out, right? We need to engage system 2 for this because there's no automatic answer to 27 times 36. So someone's getting out a calculator, right? It's slow and cumbersome. We need to make a decision to say, yeah, I'll be bothered working that out. I'm going to engage my brain. I'm going to think about this. I'm going to work out what is the answer to 27 times 36. Right? This does take deliberate effort, and this is what's required for complex problems. And we find that if you are a service-based business, how many people in the room run a service-based business, just out of interest? Okay, great, most people. The challenge with service-based businesses is we don't have it's not a physical thing, right? It's not like we've got a physical phone that we can sell. It's not like our clients can pick it up and feel it and see how sturdy it feels and, turn it around and give it a shake. With a service-based business, sometimes it can feel like we're selling hot air. It's invisible. It's this invisible service. They can't tangibly grip it. Whereas if we make it visible and tangible, somehow they can actually get a better hold of it. Now, if we have a complex solution, which in a service-based business, if you're an expert, there's a lot of genius in that brain, right? It can be hard to explain that. And so when we try and explain it, a complex solution in a service-based business, people have to choose to engage this system 2 to understand what you're talking about, right? Now, we know that actually takes effort, but how do we get people to choose to do that? Because quite often you'll know this if you've been, you're at a conference right now. So this is not happening at this conference, clearly, right? But at other conferences, when someone starts telling you what they do and they start with this verbal salad, this verbal diarrhea, right? You decide you're not going to engage system 2. You have no idea what they're talking about. And you just think, I have no idea what this person has said. Jargon, waffle. And you're like, I don't know what that means, right? Has anyone ever felt like that before? I've actually felt like I'm the person with the words coming out of my mouth before, which is why I developed this system, right? I know that uncomfortable situation where I'm at a networking event and I'm speaking and, you know, they're like, what do you do? And then I start talking and the words are coming out and I'm just like, oh, Renee, stop talking. That's not making sense. No. And then the more words just keep coming out. And, you know, that awkward feeling where you just think, shut up, Renee, shut up, Renee. And then it just keeps coming and coming. It's like, I'm not actually making this better. I'm making it worse. The more words that come out, the less sense I'm making, right? That's that uncomfortable feeling. We want to eliminate that. And that's one of the reasons why I've created this system, so that we as business owners can have more confidence and clarity in the way we talk about our businesses. And so our audience then can understand what we do in a more powerful way and make the decision to work with us. So the brain loves visual information. In fact, it dedicates more than 50% of its processing power to processing visual information. This appeals to system one. So we get to grab the audience's attention with visuals. And then once we've got their attention, we can hold on to that and get them to choose to engage system two, right? So we can grab attention with system one, we can grab attention with visuals, but also we can stay top of mind, because the research, the picture superiority effect research shows that if you just tell someone something, right, if they just hear it or they just read it in words only, in 3 days' time, they're only going to remember 10% of what you said. But if you give them a text plus picture, they'll remember 65% of what you shared 3 days later. Who would like your audience to remember 65% of what you say in 3 days' time? You want to stay top of mind. You want to cut through the noise. Use visual information. It is so, so powerful for a service-based business. Okay, so let's have a look at the results that you might be getting. So last year I celebrated 20 years in my consulting business, and I've worked with thousands of business owners. And what I've noticed is two key factors make a difference between the ones that are going to make it and the ones that don't. The first one is about how they're delivering their service. So at one end of the spectrum, they're delivering a bespoke, customized solution to every single client, right? And that means client comes to them, they're like, great, tell me what your problem is. And then they come up with a customized solution. It's like they pull on all of their expertise from all the different places and they pull together a fabulous, bespoke, customized solution for that client. Brilliant. They get results, and it's a very personalized service. Bespoke solutions are very personalized. That's a great bonus. But unfortunately, they're not the shortest distance between 2 points, right? Because when we're doing this customized thing every single time, we will get the result, but not in the most efficient, most profitable way. At the other end of the spectrum, we've got a proven guaranteed results system, right? So this means I know my ideal client has this problem A and they want to get to Z. I know that every single time they come to me, we have this 4-step process, 1, 2, 3, 4, we get result, we get from A to Z in the shortest possible distance. That's great because that means we can guarantee results every time for the clients. We can do it in the most efficient way, and that therefore is going to be more profitable. We can increase our profit margin on every single client delivery. So that's that first axis. The second factor is around audience response. When you talk about what you do, when you have a pitch, what about your pitch deck, your proposal documents? How do people respond when you talk about what it is that you do, when you offer your solution? At one end of the spectrum, when you share, it's like, you know, the blah, 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 as I was talking about before, and the audience sort of gives you a bit of a no. A client says to you, or a new potential client says, that sounds great, can you send me through a proposal? And then it's like proposal panic and you're sitting at the keyboard like, ah, and then you look at it and think, have I got everything in there? What have I missed? Have I got all the right information? Is this enough is this enough? Right? There's that constant kind of panic, and then those missed opportunities. So the other end of the spectrum, which is what we want for our service-based businesses, is we want the audience to be wrapped with what we're sharing. We want those high conversion rates for every proposal we send out, for every pitch that we do. We want the audience to go, this is amazing, this is fantastic, let's do it, where do I sign? So everyone grabs their phones out and scans this QR code right now, we're going to do a little interactive engagement where you're going to find out your own score on how you're performing right now in terms of your audience response, how do people respond to you, and in terms of the way that you're delivering your services. So take a couple of minutes to do that now. Isn't it great that we've had 2 years of practice using QR codes and you all know exactly what to do? And if you can't use the QR code, there is the URL at the bottom. If you just go to thinkwrapped.scoreapp.com, you can also do it there as well. So it's just going to ask you a couple of questions around these concepts that I've just shared with you to give you a little score. And just because I'm not in the room there with you, once you're done, if I could get you to please stand so I can really see who's finished, that would be fantastic. Oh, good. We've got a winner down the back. Excellent. Good, good. Fantastic. All right, I'll give you another 30 seconds to finish that, and hopefully we'll have everyone standing by then. Looking good, looking good. All right, fabulous. Okay, well now let's see how my hit prediction goes with the scores that you got. If you scored low on the audience response and on the service delivery, you can sit down now. Thank you so much for playing along with my game. Because I can't hear you, so I'm relying on what I can see. Okay, so if you scored low on audience response and service delivery, this is a really high risk way of doing business, right? It's kind of scary because, you know, it feels a bit like this. It's like scramble, scramble, scramble. Got a client, fantastic. Now I'm giving a bespoke service. So I've got to put all my time and attention on delivering a high quality, amazing service for this client. It's going to take everything I've got to do that. Beautiful, great. Client gets result. Oh my goodness, I've got no pipeline. Now I need a new client. Where am I going to get my next client from? Scramble, 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 looking for the next client. It is a terrifying way to do business. I've been there. I do not recommend it. If you are there, please keep listening because I've got some hot tips for you to help you get out of that situation. Up in the top left, this is where you're scoring really well. You've got a great proven system, but you're not quite converting. You're not getting the conversion rates you want in terms of getting the clients, right? So you're probably getting some really excellent referrals because you're great at what you do. So the clients who've worked with you loved you, so they're going to refer, but it's not quite enough. You're kind of like the world's best kept secret, right? And what would be really lovely is to have some more of those clients. Down the bottom right, this is where you're fantastic at selling, fantastic at getting and attracting those clients in, but all the weight of the business is on your shoulders. Even if you have a team, the clients want to speak to you because they know that you are the keeper of all the secrets because you are the founder. All of that genius is in your head. So they don't want to speak to your team. They're calling you at 8 o'clock at night and, you know, when you're at 10 o'clock on a Saturday, when you're supposed to be watching your kid play sport, they're interrupting all of those things because you are the most important thing and you have everything that they need. So it's like, it can feel like you're spinning all the plates in the business and barely keeping it all together, and something's going to fall. And that's a lot of key person risk. And for the people down in that bottleneck scenario, you know, going on a holiday seems like a pipe dream. And, you know, if you get sick, that's just terrifying. You don't have time to get sick, basically. So don't you dare. Now in the top right, this is where we want to be, right? This is where we have a proven system for delivering our service. We have a way of doing that doesn't burn us out. And we have a reliable, consistent stream of clients who are able to make that a profitable business without the burnout. And we get to have the massive impact. You know, we get to make a difference in terms of that why that we've been talking about. We get to have, you know, we get to achieve the vision that we set out to achieve when we actually started our businesses in the first place. Because, you know, from what I'm hearing, you've all started your businesses because you care about something deeply and you want to make a difference in the area you care about. So why do you want to use visual models? Because they actually do make a difference in the way that you run your business. So this is one of our clients, Anna. After she created her 4 visual models using our system, a few days later, she donated a door prize to an event. She got up and she had 5 minutes on stage as sort of, you know, a door prize donator. In 5 minutes, she used those 4 models and converted 50% of the room to attend her workshop. Now, speaking from stage, industry benchmark is something like 10% when you've got a longer presentation. 50% in 5 minutes, that's insane, right? But she did it with her models. Another one of our clients, Leah. So she was selling her services. So she works in sales coaching and she was working one-on-one with clients, but she was selling single sessions at a time. She went from selling, say, a 1 hour, $300 session to selling her first $55,000 package, right? So when you're able to take what is in your head and turn it into one of these systems, you are able to sell and show value and worth for a higher ticket item and stop chasing those, you know, stop trading that time for money. And Katie Jane Romain was able to transition from working one-on-one with her clients to actually running 12-month mastermind programs and increased her revenue from 300,000 to $1 million in just 15 months by using our system to sell what she does and then also as the basis of the programs that she was running. So let's jump into that ThinkWrap system. So with this system, what we want to do is take all of that genius from your brain and put it into these visible, tangible assets. So, you know, you can imagine when you're pulling all that stuff out of your brain, that connects with that, connects with that, connects with that. This is actually a real life extraction from one of my clients. When we pull it all out, it all connects, right? There's so much information, but we don't want to give that to our clients, right? That's not going to help them. So we don't want all of the information we pull out to go into one image, right? This is what I call a dog's breakfast. We've got a couple of fruits, we've got a yes without a no, we've got a country, 76% that's not even 76% of the shape. It's a mess, right? Now that's an extreme example. That's not what people are going to obviously create. But when I look at people trying to put visual models in, what often happens is you've got various types of information in the same picture. And that's sort of the equivalent of what I'm trying to demonstrate here. What we want to do, there's 4 different categories of information we're going to pull out of your brain. And each of those 4 categories becomes its own picture. And with that set of 4 full pictures, that tells the complete story. You weave those together, it tells a story, and it answers all the questions that your audience has when they're deciding to work with you. So the first model you want to create, the first visual, is the results model. This is an aspirational model. The purpose of this one is to show your audience the gap between where they are and where they want to be. So here are some quick examples, and I'm wary of time, so I'm going to really quickly flick through these, but just to show you. So these are some examples of some client results models. Okay, this one here, you can see what we're trying to do with the results model is show some sort of aspiration, right? We want to get to the best case scenario. We want to get to the top, okay? So a few different examples here. various different results models. This one here is for a relationship coach. So, you know, we're measuring more than one relationship when it comes. So on this spectrum, you might have one relationship that's unbreakable, one that's broken, and a bunch that are in the middle. Or, you know, you might wake up in the morning and the relationship might be unbreakable and feeling fantastic. You wake up and you give your partner a kiss in the morning and everything's great. And then they go and make themselves a coffee and forget to give you one. And now it's like down and broken because you're like, how dare you not make me a coffee? So, you know, in terms of relationships, right, it's not like there's a happy ending and the best case scenario and then it's all over, right? So if in your business, you're measuring the quality of something and the quality is fluid, it can change over time and there's more than one, you might have this style of results model. Couple more. This is a very common form of results model that we use, especially if you're a B2B business. A matrix is a very common shape that we will use for this scenario. And a few different examples there. Okay, the second type of model visual that you want to create for your business is an answers model. This one is the answers to all the problems that your clients are having, right? You know, as the expert, you're going to do the diagnosis. What are all the problems your clients face? What are the challenges? What are the obstacles? What are the things in the way? What is stopping them from reaching the best case scenario in that first model? Now you want to give them the answers to that. If you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. If you achieve all these things, if you have all these things in place, you will be successful. These are the success criteria. That's what goes in your answers model. So a few quick examples here. Various different shapes. So you're going to notice that all the shapes that we choose, the shapes are metaphors, right? But the metaphors need to be relevant to the client's scenario. This is an IP lawyer. So, you know, and we want the models to be unique to your business. We want them to be on brand. The colors and the fonts need to all be in alignment with your brand guidelines. And we want to make sure that the shapes are appropriate for your audience. So lots of different answers model examples there. This one here has got an acronym in it. So we've got CARE. This is Janet's CARE model. So, there's a really important point here about acronyms and alliteration where we have all the words starting with the same letter. Those things are really great and powerful when they work. But I really want to give you a word of warning here that I don't want you to try too hard to make that happen. Okay, because if you end up having all the words starting with C, because that's what you really wanted to do and you were so attached to that, but then some of the words didn't actually make sense. We want the words, the labels should actually say what they do on the can, right? We don't want something that needs explaining, okay? Because the purpose of these models is to make things clearer and simpler. Remember, coming back to that research at the start, we want to cut through the noise of 174 newspapers a day. If it's confusing, we're not cutting through the noise, right? Clear, clear, clear. Hope I made that point. This one here is Modus Consulting. So these are a multinational consulting practice. So theirs is a bit more complicated, but for most of us in small business, the maximum number of things you want to have in your answers model is 7 elements. And then this one here, we've got a bit of a gauge. So, you know, I talked about how you'll do some diagnosis to create this model. So, you know, on the left-hand side here, this is a consultant who works in solution-focused change. So has this team got confusion or clarity? Is there competition or collaboration, control or trust, imposition or engagement, rigidity or flexibility? So here we can be measuring the different things that are important to to a team running well. Okay, the third model is the process model. And this one is this is your unique methodology. This is the way that you get your clients from A to Z. Okay, so this is all about actions and doing. So when a client starts to work with you, how do you deliver your service? First we do this, then we do this, then we do this, then we do this. Okay, we want to use verbs in this model. Great to use numbers as well. Icons can be used for aesthetics. And again, maximum of 7 steps in your process model. Okay. Couple of examples. And the fourth and final model is the target model. This model is all about what are the benefits or the KPIs, key performance indicators that you are targeting with this service that you are providing. So with this one, maximum, ideally 3 elements, 3 benefits in this model, maximum 4. Now, the reason for this is when you're presenting your models and you're weaving them all together to tell a story, the target model is the last one that you present. And when you present it, the rhythm of it is great if it's a really sort of staccato and it's really punchy. And you're saying, when you follow my step-by-step process, these are the benefits. You get this, you get this, you get this, boom, drop the mic, right? We want it to be really punchy and powerful. We don't want to kind of have something like 6 or 7 things, because then you kind of feel like you're a late night infomercial presenter. And you're like, and when you work with me, you get this and you get this and you get this and a set of steak knives, and it just starts to feel awkward and gross. And you're just like, it just doesn't feel good to present that, and it doesn't feel good to be watching it, right? So we want to make sure 3, maximum 4 elements in your target model. This is where you're showing the benefits of working with you. Couple of examples there. Great. And then these all wrap up and become the gifts that keep on giving in your service-based business, right? They give the audience the answers to all the questions they have. It's like an emotional rational sandwich. The results in the target model speak to the emotional decision-making needs, because we make decisions based on how we feel, right? We all know that. I like the look of the color of this car. I'm a terrible, I should not be delegated responsibility for purchasing the car in our household, right? But we make decisions based on how we feel. So the results in the target model speak to that. Then we justify it with the logic, and the answers model and the process model speak to those rational needs. Okay, so that's the emotional rational sandwich. The results in the target model tell your audience why they should work with you. The answers model tells your audience what do they need to be successful. The process model tells them how you are going to help them get there, right? So we're answering all those decision-making needs in 4 quick pictures. Record for one of my clients talked through all of those 4 models in 3 minutes, 20 seconds, right? We go back to that example of Anna Osherov. She did it in 5 minutes, converted 50% of the room, right? So you can do it, powerful, but it's also like a concertina, right? It can expand and take up as much space as you have. You've got a keynote presentation, great, use your 4 models, done. Want to run a 12-month program, we'll just expand it a bit more, add in case studies, examples, activities, exercises, you know, the actual implementation of what you're teaching and sharing, right? So it gives you that flexibility, and then it becomes the core of everything in your business. Showing you then how it comes together in a proposal document, we integrate the 4 models with the copy, with the text that goes along and supports that. And, you know, if you've got this proven system, you can just be sending this as a proposal template to, you know, to any potential new client that you have. And of course, you know, you can customize it and tweak it and personalize it a little bit if you need to, but you've got that template there ready to go to increase your efficiency for those things. And that's that one there. All right, now I'm just going to make sure I finish on time. So I'm going to quickly jump to this one. So by putting a think wrap system and putting visual models at the core of a service-based business, you get to, you know, you can base your book on this. Your workshops and courses can be based on this, a pitch deck, your service delivery, brochures and proposals, social media content, and landing pages. Everything comes back to this core IP in your business. When I say IP, I'm talking about intellectual property. I'm going to quickly skip on that because we don't have time. So by putting this at the core of your business, you get to streamline your service delivery, stand out, cut through that noise, and scale and grow your business. So, you know, if you weren't in that massive impact quadrant at the start of today's session, by putting a think wrap system, implementing one into your business, the goal is for us to get you up there. And that brings us to the final thing. If you would like a copy of my book, Get Visual, a free copy for everyone, just pay for postage, and you can grab that there. And that's my gift to all of you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute joy. I'm so honoured and grateful to share this time with you today. And let's open to questions.
Alrighty, do we have any questions, guys, for Renee? All good? They're telling you about the QR code.
There
Is it broken?
The QR code's not working, supposedly.
Oh, okay.
But
all right.
anyway.
Then if you go to thinkwrapped.com/offer, then you'll grab the book there. Just make sure, just remember the coupon code you'll need is altitude to make sure that you get the free book.
Stunning. Alrighty. Well, I think. Oh, Anton, do you have a question? Do you want to just jump up to the mic?
This looks like a really good system, and but the question I've got is, how does the process work? So I turn up as a business and I go, I want to do this. What sort of time period does it take to pull it all together? And a guesstimate on the cost range.
Sure, absolutely. So as you would expect from that, we have a proven system and we have a set package around this. So we aim to do this, we work very, very quickly. So we have a 1 hour session where we take, we get sort of basics of the business sorted, then we do a full day with the client and then another 1 hour session, and then my team creates all the assets based on that. So in terms of time frame, it's just how quickly we can schedule those sessions in. And then within that, within 2 weeks of those sessions, we have all of those assets completed. So yeah, it's a very quick process. Thanks for the question, Ed. Oh, and the price. So it's $10,000 plus GST.
Stunning. Alrighty, well, Renee, thank you so much for joining us from wherever you are in the world. You did tell me before, Melbourne.
I'm on Wurundjeri land in Melbourne, that's right. Yep.
Stunning. Alrighty, big round of applause. Oh, sorry, we've got time. What? That's all right. So we had the QR code is actually, if you go into the app, and we've got Think Wrapped brochures like within the app, if you just go explore through there, it'll all be in there. And just remember, this is all available in a few days when you get sent a link to all the presentations as well. So big round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Alrighty, everyone. So I know I promised we were going to do the breakout rooms. We're actually all going to stay in here. And Lorna is going to talk to us about 3 key steps to innovating your business. And then who's ready for coffee after that? Me? Yep. Alrighty. So Lorna, would you please come down from the back? A big Ellen DeGeneres welcome. Come dance down the side. Come on up. You can just jump straight up if you want. Have you got a little, yep, stunning.
I think you've got me
On.
Thanks.
After you.
Hi. I'm going to put my glasses here and look like a bit of a granny. So hello to everyone who I do know, and hello to everyone who I haven't met yet. It has been wonderful, wonderful to be here. So who am I? Lorna Hollinger. Oh, where's my clicker? Oh, God.
Big green button in the middle. You can just point it at that screen.
Oh, right, got it. And there's a timer. Okay, this is really going to work for me because apparently I can talk. So who am I? So many of you will know me. I am the sponsor of the Altitude Awards. I sponsor the Climb Every Mountain Award. I won the award, the first award, a Brave Award in 2014. 2017, I get a Brave Award, and I've gone, you know what, Andrea, let me sponsor it from now on, providing you give me that award. There was a caveat to that. So I'm here to talk to you because I'm on podcasts, international podcasts. I get on an Australian podcast. I run the Australian Tapping Institute. This week's claim to fame is I wrote my first book, and it got to bestseller in Australia in 10 categories and smashed the publisher's record. I know. Women and men reading the title. It's not about men. It's about women and empowering us to live a better life and be grateful that that relationship that ended has ended. So please don't be put off by the title. You've got to love the artwork though. She lives in my house. She's stunning. So I run the Australian Tapping Institute. So I train people to be EFT practitioners. So those of you who know tapping, I am the tapping lady, and I teach a holistic program that's tapping and life coaching and together, graduating you out to actually be able to run a business, make money, and actually do what you love to do. So that's who I am. So let's go into what the actual, talk is about. So traditional training in the industry. I want to talk to you about how you can innovate your business and how you can shift from what you're doing now into something that works better for you. So I'm going to put it through the lens of what I did with my business and then talk to you with conversations of how you can do it in your business, okay? So is that a good way we're going to spend some time together? If we save some questions to sort of the end, and I'll go through them, I might answer most of the questions. If I don't, well, you'll be able to ask them at the end, and we'll go through. I do know I talk fast. I do know I sound really nervy. I should probably do some tapping on that. So let's continue on. So traditional EFT training comes out of two camps in the States. Two blokes that didn't invent the technique decided they would set the standard of how EFT training is run. So primarily all the other trainers across the world, that's how they have to do it. I didn't train with them, so I'm not under any of their rules. I also had a really specific goal. My plan is to be the best EFT life coach training school on the planet. I have done that from day one. That has been my goal right from the very beginning. Even when I was training at my dining room table and teaching just EFT, that was my plan. That is the plan. It's not a goal, it's the plan. That's what I'm going to do. I can talk about tapping for all day. I can talk about marketing all day. I love both topics. But what I also know is nobody in my industry trains the way I do. Nobody has created an online school. There are lots of EFT trainers and they're fabulous, but I decided I wanted a school, which is an elevation from just being a trainer. So there's a whole swag of people in behind me, but there's a very, very different way that I trained as well. So I want you to innovate your business just like I did so that you can make bigger, better decisions, bigger, better money, and make a bigger impact. Alrighty, so what did I actually do? So when I first started my training, I started to recognise a trend with my students. They weren't getting the results that I was getting. So I started as training in clinical EFT, just like everybody else was doing in all the other EFT training. But there was just this lack. I would watch them and go, what's missing? What's missing? What's missing? Because to me, if you're going to teach anything, it has to be replicable. If I'm getting these results, they have to get these results. If not, there's something missing in the middle here that I'm not doing. And that's what I started to look at. Who are my clients and what are the results are they getting? They didn't come out with any business skills. Now, I had dropped $14,000 into a life coaching diploma probably 6 or 7 years earlier. Then I went home and told my husband I'd done it, which could be why I've got a book that says he's now gone. Wasn't thrilled, but that's where I started. So I already had a basis in life coaching. I'd also then gone and done a mastermind after my life coaching to go teach me business stuff. EFT training wasn't giving them that. So I started to look at, okay, who are we now attracting? My school had grown, the offering had grown, what the training was all about had grown. So let's go back and look at the avatar. So I started to then look, unfortunately for COVID, killed the name Karen for all of us because they were the misbehaviours, but my avatar was labelled Karen. Let's start to look at what Karen is like versus who I thought my avatar was. She was vastly different. My original avatar was people who were more like my clients. The jump from being my client to coming and sorting out your head to coming and deciding I want to be a practitioner and want to start my own business was too big a leap. So I had to then come back to my avatar. So once I got that fairly clear, the next step was, what was the journey they were going to come on? How were they going to turn up in my funnel? What were they going to be doing? Where were they going to connect? Would they come through? I'd meet them at an event like this. Would I meet them online? Would they follow me on Facebook? So we started to map all of that out, who they were and how they were going to turn up. The next thing I started to do down this bottom one, which may or may not be very clear, I started then to look at, okay, if I'm going to revamp what I offer and start to look at something that resembled online, what might that start to look like? What it looks like down the bottom of a 6-month EFT certification is nothing like what I offer now, but that was my starting point. I had to start to map something somewhere. Okay? Any questions on that? No, we're just going to keep going. There'll be lots of questions at the end, maybe. Maybe not. All right, so this thing, beautiful. Why did I want to challenge the status quo? A number of reasons. The first one is probably because I like to win. I don't like to come second in very many things. My mother's dying words to my then fiancé were, it's worth it to let her win. There could be a reason why I'm twice divorced, because that one went away as well, just saying. I like to win. So when I recognised that these two men in America were running the whole show, nothing against men, I date gorgeous men, I gave birth to gorgeous men, but it was like, they're not going to win. Why do they get to set the standard of what I want to do and what I want to create? So that was part of my motivation. The other part was, as I said, I planned to be the best EFT life coaching school on the planet. the way they were doing it, one-to-one, people in a group and face-to-face training, wasn't going to get me to my goals. I also love the online space. I'm an absolute geek. Getting onto systems and playing in systems and being on computer systems for me just absolutely lights me up. So all of those factors started to play into where could I take a training that I'm doing at my dining room table with a couple of people having to turn up, where can I take it to that's different? I did evolve my dining room table to when my second husband moved out. He said, I'm just going to take everything out of the lounge room. Everything that's in the lounge, I'm having all the electronic stuff. And I thought, that's the best idea you've ever come up with. The sofas, the tables, everything. You just take all of that and off you go. Take the bedroom suite, you take it all. And I turned my lounge room into a training space. I bought tables and chairs. I put stuff on the wall, audio, and my big lounge room became a training room. And people flew in from Australia to train with me in a dedicated space. I didn't tell them it was in my lounge room, but you're coming to a training that has a dedicated space. It's all in the languaging. So they were some of the reasons that I wanted to do all into the online space. Now, for those of you, I know I've met a few of you, my online training of how to create a course online is coming. The book took longer than I thought, so it is coming. I do have a course coming on how to actually do online training and how to create your first course. So evolution for me was, and I'm going to read this because I have to write it down. So in 2015, I was training at my dining room table in my own home and traded under my own name. By 2016, some of you know Sharon Vaness, she was my business coach back then. That's when the Australian Tapping Institute was actually born. We sat there and we started to work out what name could look bigger than just me. Because remember my big plan, there was always a bigger plan behind it. I've always had the envisage that my business needed to look bigger than just me from day one. That was the plan. So then in 2017, that's when I started to look at what my students were doing and how well they were doing and what wasn't replicated from what I had done. That was the main thing for me. What wasn't being replicated here? So that's when I pulled it off the market and I went back to the drawing board with a girlfriend and we started to remap all of it. What were they not getting? What was missing? What did they get? What results were they getting? How much money were they able to charge their own clients? And we spent 2 days just literally pulling the whole business apart and then re-looked at it. What was missing was the life coaching stuff. So all the stuff I'd paid the big money for was the bit that they were missing. So in 2018, so it took me probably a good 6 months by the time I'd remapped it all, I rewrote my curriculum, put it back out for accreditation, so it's an accredited course, and I put it back out for there, and then I went, okay, how do I do a hybrid version? How do I do training that's partly traditional, that everybody knows, so people are comfortable with, and then how do I satisfy what I want, which is Geekyville, and how do I get it online? I don't know what you guys are like. Going to a training for 3 days and having someone cram your head for 3 days is exhausting. It's exhausting when you're here. It's exhausting when you're there. Now, tapping is also, for those of you who don't know, it's energy meridian stuff. It's exhausting because it's energy work as well. So rather than have people for 3 days, they'd fly in from all over Australia, be exhausted by the time they left, I thought there has to be a better way. My hybrid version was 1 day in the room with me, off you go home, and then I will do a level of online training as well. 2019, I thought the best idea I could come up with was, I'd gone part-time with my job by this stage, I'll travel around Australia. Doesn't that sound like a great idea? And go and do your training around Australia? Where was I going to find the time to do that? I had to find accommodation, I had to find venues, I had to fill rooms, I had to find people in spaces I didn't know, I had to book a venue that I didn't even know it looked like when I got there, and I looked at the board and thought, what the am I thinking? It just was like, this is just mental. How am I going to do the big grand gesture that I want when that's a limitation to me? So by the end of 2019, I cancelled the whole idea of going on this roadshow, and I went, how do I do it 100% online? What needs to be different about doing the partial hybrid model? What needs to happen? So I simply looked at what the 1 day training was and went, how do I replicate that? All I have to do is figure out that first 1 day training and put it online. If I can replicate that, I can go 100% online. That gives me global reach. So we now have students enrolling from America, we have students enrolling from the UK. all because I've got the online model. By 2020, and I'm sorry for those of you whose businesses didn't do well in COVID, mine kaboomed. I had broken my hand in the January, so I didn't work all of January and February. March came and so did COVID. It was like, did we not all draw that breath? By June, I had students enrolling en masse. I had people dropping money into my bank account I'd never heard of, and all these enrolments, and I go, have I got another one? Where did that one come from? And they just kept turning up. So I do apologise for those who it didn't work well for. For me, because I'd innovated, it worked exceptionally well. All the other schools around the world had to shut their doors at that period of time because face-to-face training got shut down. I didn't have that as a problem. They all scrambled to do Zoom, so then they all reverted to, let's shove you into a Zoom room in your own home for 3 days and try to emulate the other side of stuff. It doesn't necessarily work. And it's for me as well, I find it exhausting. I don't want to be in a Zoom room in my own home for 3 days. That's equally as distracting as doing anything else in my home for 5 minutes, let alone 3 days. You guys kind of relate to this? Yeah. Is it time to innovate? Yeah, some of you it really is, isn't it? Really is, isn't it? Keep grinning on that table. So when I decided that I needed to do, or I wanted to go and completely take myself into the new space I wanted to be in, there were some very key markers that I needed to hit. So my school was very successful in a number of ways, but moving from something that everybody knew around the world, because everyone knows you do EFT training, if that's your thing, where do I have to turn up to? Where do I have to go to classes? Where do I have to actually front up to a human at some point in time between my enrolment and my graduation? That's how they all work. So for me, I wanted something that needed to be very unique, and I wanted it to be very unique for us. I've got a number of processes that we use that nobody else knows I use. I explain how I do it, but I basically stole it from my life coaching course. I looked at my $14,000 course, how she did it, what she did, what worked for me, and I just replicated what she did. She'd done the hard work for me. And so I then put my frameworks into hers and just, okay, how do these work in frameworks that I know is already successful? What were the non-negotiables in transitioning over? There needed to be some non-negotiables because I wasn't prepared to lose some of the good factors that we had to go online. There had to be a way to emulate it and keep them all. What do we need to maintain? What did I need to improve? And what did I need to make sure that I achieved? The last one for me was lifestyle. I have a son that's a chef who is going to travel the world. I'll have to follow him and chase him if I ever want to see him. I know that's the deal with him. I have another one who lives in Melbourne. They've left me. So I knew part of my lifestyle would be I would want to be free and able to travel and go where they were. So the key factors for me were maintaining community. When people turned up in that room and they caught up with each other and they flew in and they did that stuff in my training room, they connected with each other, just like we do here. Humans love connection. We hated those 2 years apart from each other because this is what us humans love. So in those rooms, these people really connected. That was a not negotiable for me. I was not prepared to lose that. Our beginners, now they are our people who are our brand new coaches and our brand new practitioners who walk in with a hope and a dream. They've got no idea how to coach a person. They've got no idea how to hold a space. They've got no idea of really how present they have to be or how to be present without their ego in the room. All those sorts of things. So I knew I had to emulate that because in your 3-day training, you got to go and practice with other humans. You got to sit with another person and do some work with them while other people assessed you. So I knew that was another not negotiable. For me, it was also the online experience. Who's been on a website and it's clunky as and you can't figure it out and it goes backwards and forwards and you just don't want to be on those. So I wanted a platform that was seamless. I wanted a platform that was going to be user-friendly. I actually found one that's even got an app and they provide that for me. So they were my not negotiables when I knew I wanted to transition. So weighing up the risks. Obviously, when you start to innovate, you start to change the ballpark, you start to shake things up, there are going to be risks at some point in time. You must know the risks. You must know that if this all goes to shit, you've got a fallback plan and you will be okay. To this day, while I'm self-employed and I have all my stuff in place, I still have a plan with my sister that if this all goes to shit as a single woman with no backup, I rent out my house and I stick a caravan at her house. I still have my plan. My brother-in-law didn't think that was such a good idea till he figured out I cook far better than my sister does and I would be a living babysitter. To that point, he said, how big would you like your annex to be? So I have a plan. So if you don't know the risks, how do you know what your tolerance level is going to be? Because there's going to be a level of tolerance for this. So for me, the risks were the doubters. There were so many people going, I really don't think this is going to work. You're not going to be able to pull this off. You're going to have to go back to live. It's the way it's always been done. There was restrictions. All of the other people who have trained through those 2 basic camps in America, they have to follow their rules. And thankfully, their rules are still, we will train online for 3 days and you have to front up somewhere in the world before we will graduate you. Yes, stick to that, you lot. You guys stick to that. Because while they're sticking to that, any other training that comes through won't catch me. And I know I sound very arrogant, but I'm very, very confident here. My marketing team has strategies in place that for anyone to catch me, it will cost them a lot of money. And we've done that on purpose. Because remember, I'm going to own the best EFT life coaching school on the planet. That takes strategy. Yes, thank you. And that's the other thing, strategic steps. Don't jump. Take a calculated risk and take steps. But people jump in, they back themselves against the wall. That's not the way to do it. There are other ways. You don't have to do that. And I'm going to speak before the men will shut their ears. That's the masculine way to do it. We are women, we are in flow, and you can do it as in your feminine without having to step straight into that masculine with strategic steps and thinking through. Right, so you've got to know the risks, you've got to know the consequences, you've got to know your worst case scenario, and as I said, mine is a caravan at my sister's with an annex off the side of it, if that's what it takes for me to succeed. Because I've not long recently quit my corporate career, it's a very high-end corporate career. I have walked away from that. This is it. And I'd said to my marketing team, if this gamble doesn't work out, I'm that homeless person we've just walked past. So you lot better do your job. They laugh. Oops. Oh, went back. How do you make it go backwards? That one. That would be that red button. I found the red button. Don't press the red button. That's the deal. Don't press the red button. So what were the key risks for me? There were a number of them. No one had done training like this 100% online in the world. There was one lady who was doing EFT training. I know how bad it was because I did it. And I spent the whole time in her training going, if I wasn't a life coach, there is no way I could make a business. There's no way I could step out of this and work with clients. After I did her training, I bought every single EFT tapping book I could find on the planet that looked like it would give me worthwhile information to fill in the gaps in my education. That's what I did. The other thing is I didn't know the technology. So I currently use a platform called Kajabi. Who else is online? Who's got online stuff? Kajabi, Teachable. There's all sorts of ones out there. Which one? Yeah. So there's a whole number of them, depending on your price point as to which one they are. They all do pretty much the same thing. Those platforms don't come branded. I didn't know that till I got into Teachable and went, I don't know what to do. So it took me, I think, 3 or 4 months to actually figure out how to brand it, how to make it work, how to get this to talk to this, and then I needed Zapier, and it took months. I didn't know the system, but I knew that I wanted to learn it, so that was a risk for me. If I couldn't figure it out, how am I going to get my students to figure it out, and how am I going to get them to have that seamless experience that I wanted them to have? The other thing at the time is I didn't have a marketing team. So I've been doing this in 2015. In July, I hit 2 years with my marketing team. It's taken me that long to actually find the finances. And for me, I really felt I needed to establish what it was that I offered and how I was offering it, what it looked like, before I started pouring money into something that I didn't know actually worked. So that was my strategy. The other thing was those big names dominated the industry. If you ask anyone about EFT training, they'll be able to tell you the 2 camps. I'm not going to mention them, but they set the world standard. So fortunately, I was geeky enough to get on that internet and I found all of their trainings. I found their workbooks. I found all of their instruction manuals. I was able to find other people who had them. I bought stuff that gave me the edge, and I went through every single one of their trainings to figure out what they did and how they did it, so I could emulate it and work out what worked for me. So the structure of the actual training is sound because it's the same as what they all do. My life coaching still is the sound, and then my flavours woven in through all of the whole lot of it. And that's what I did. So they were the risks that I knew I had to look at before I decided what I was going to do. Now the green button doesn't want to work. Here we go. Okay. Any questions on any of this so far? Because I'm getting to the stage where what I actually did worked. You all good? So remember all my key markers that I had to have? Don't press the red button. Okay. Community. The community of people I have in my private Facebook group is nothing short of phenomenal. And I know that sounds a really big order. I didn't create it. I put all these people into a Facebook group. I connected them in calls where they actually have to work together. So rather than the other schools where they go find yourself some practice clients, I put them into groups and I make them work together. I make them work on their own stuff. I make them see their shadow side. Because I know if they don't, they're not going to become the practitioner that they want to be that's going to go out and change the world. They're going to be too afraid to go deep. They're going to be too afraid to go into their own stuff. I then stick mentors in over the top of them who help them to grow even further and assess them and actually give them private coaching as well. Then these people come together, and primarily it's women in our school. We get men from time to time and they just integrate beautifully with us, but primarily it's women, so it's a really, really safe space. The community that has developed far outweighs anything I had ever thought that it would, and it's absolutely beautiful, beautiful space. Even after they graduate, they stick around and they help and support each other. It's magic. Our beginner calls, I figured out if I bring them into private calls 3-4 times a month and they actually learn my framework, and then I watch you do it on Zoom where you coach you and you coach you and you coach her and I assess you, I emulated exactly what they did when they were live in the room in my training room. I practiced and I emulated it in that Zoom space, and it works brilliantly. What I did with my whole intake day, so that one day I actually pre-recorded that whole training in little step-by-step modules, so they don't miss anything from not being in the room. The online experience is awesome. Kajabi is amazing. It's not the cheapest one on the planet, but for me it's the best, and it also has an app to it. Everyone wants an app these days. It's all included. So if you think about what the experience is for your clients and the people who are using it, that to me is the seamless bit. I don't get emails that there's hiccups, they don't get logged out. God, they don't have problems ever with Kajabi because the platform's sound, and that's Kajabi's job to make sure it runs. The green button doesn't like me. Okay, so what were the results that I got? So start to look at here. So I hit the market at $2,500. It was $19.97 if you paid me up front. I didn't have confidence back then that this was going to work. So while that was still nearly double what the rest of the market trainers were offering, I still took a dirty, great big deep breath and went, no, I know the product's worth it. So it was 12 months online and it was a one-day live training. Now I started this in July 2018 was when I first went online, or first did the more hybrid model. Later that year, my father had died, and the plan was that I was just going to stay a month ahead of all those students as they came through. And my dad went and died. So I didn't have capacity to run my day job and write these modules. So I had this beautiful student who's become a best friend go, I've caught up to you. And I'm like, oh shit, now what do I do? And I had to keep saying to her, just give me a little bit of patience because this is what's happened. And so I wrote it as I went. So you don't have to be fully done before you launch. You can do it on the run, just a month ahead, and hope that, heaven forbid, your father doesn't die. Very inconvenient of him. I did tell him that on his deathbed. Year 2, we got to, so it was 12 months. Online, I dumped the one day in the room. No one was coming to my training space anymore. Husband could come back in and put his sofa and his TV back in if he wanted to. And I increased the price. Every time I increased the price, it was like, hold your breath until somebody pays for it, because I didn't know what the market was going to pay. I didn't know how far the market was going to allow me to take this before the market said, no, you've capped us out. So we had 12 students. Year 3, so by the time I do my maths, I think I'm in year 4 now. I'm dreadful with dates. That was 18, 19 was the first year. Year 2 was, 19, 20. And then the next year was 2021. And so we're in 2020, 21, 22, aren't we? So as you can see, I started to increase the price. I went from $2,600 to just over $4,000. Held my breath. They kept coming because my marketing reflected what we had got and what we could deliver. And my marketing reflected the transformation that they were going to get. I had students who were out there in the marketplace. You look at the ones killing it in Instagram, they've trained with me because I've got a bunch of particularly young ones just absolutely slaying it on Instagram and clients just rolling in the doors for them. They barely have to do marketing other than show up. Then we get year to date, I increased it to 5,000, again, held my breath, took my eye off the prize, came to look at my book, and then saw them just still dropping $5,000 into my bank account, and I don't even know who they are. They're not even on my list. They literally find me on Google. Yep, that looks like the course for me, and $5,000 drops in my bank account. So every time you increase the price, I just held my breath waiting to see what the market would actually agree to. I'm really comfortable where it is at the moment, and that's where I reckon I'll leave it. So that's the end for me. Does anyone have any questions on any of this? I know they'll probably tell me to wrap up because I'm at the 2-minute mark, but please, let's do.
First is not a question, it's a comment. That's freaking awesome, and I want to say you're amazing. Second question is, just for interest, on the 12-month program, what does that, for my little brain, consist of? Minus that live training, is it?
My 12-month training?
Yeah.
So there's short version, 18 modules, there's 20 live calls, there's 2 beginner calls, there's 2 mentors that are going to go over the top of you to watch you. You're going to sit in a triad for 18 sessions with 2 other students who you're going to coach each other and they're going to coach you and you're going to learn and grow. What else have we got? You get access to me and you get some private sessions with a mentor as well. For your $5,000 and literally personal transformation for the year. Yeah, wow.
A second small question that just popped in. How did you go about getting the ability to have your course accredited? Does that make sense?
International Institute for Complementary Therapists. So I had to create a whole curriculum, a whole game plan, how many FaceTime hours, how many online hours, and had it all through there. And International Institute for Complementary Therapists were the ones who accredited it for EFT. Then when I did the life coaching part, they accredited that. Last year, we're the only school in Australia and New Zealand who they've actually given advanced certification to for life coaching and EFT because of the depth of what my course includes. And they were the ones who said, advanced EFT, life coach, and get those prices up. Wow. And they were the ones who said, because they accredit everyone else's, they knew what I had and they knew what the others offer.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome. Any other questions?
Alrighty.
All right, so one last thing. EFT, if you want to know what EFT is, come and ask me. My book. My gorgeous friend Lara is outside. Some of you here, I think Michelle's here wherever she is. Oh, she's down the back still. Michelle, your book is here wherever you've gone to. And if anyone wants a copy of my book, it is here. I'm happy to autograph it. As I said, it is not about men. It is the cover is provocative, so is the title, because she's my target market for my school, and I knew that would be her audience. And that's why it's like that, but it is. It's a personal empowerment call for women. Do you want to see me? Come talk to me. But thank you so much for inviting me, having me and sharing with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.